What is up, guys? Back for another breakdown of EPL on Saturday, the 28th. We have our third game week of the season. Been a good first couple weeks. Been a fun to get back going with EPL after, an off season, a summer filled with Euros, filled with a bunch of national team competition. So now we're back to the domestic leagues. We got Champions League coming up as well. We saw the draw for that this week. So it's going to be it's a fun time. We really are starting to hone in on how these teams have readjusted to start the year, some of the new roles and things like that. So obviously going to go game by game tonight and break down tomorrow's slate for you. Before I hop in, I do want to let everybody know that we have a new partnership with Fanshare Sports, and that is really big when it comes to NFL, which is coming up very soon, and PGA. So be sure to hop over there, use the code Jaeger, and get 20% off that subscription. They have ownership projections, a lineup optimizer, which is something we've been trying for a long time to partner with somebody that has that. For you guys, we've really wanted to do that. So be sure to hop over there and use the code Jaeger. If you have any questions, I know Chris has already done one PGA show, at least talking through their tools and going through things like that. So be sure to reach out to either one of us. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have there. And also Prize Picks. We have the code Jaeger as well. And when signing up, you're going to get 100% bonus or match bonus up to $100. So Chris gives a lot of Prize Picks plays. Unfortunately, I'm not in a state that I can play, so I actually don't get on there a ton. But when I am in a state, whether it's North Carolina, South Carolina, wherever it may be, I will be playing. So that is a definite. And lastly, Patreon. If you haven't joined over there, be sure to hop over. It's $10 a month for one sport, or you can do $20 a month for all sports. And what that gets you is the Discord chat, which we are in daily, answering questions, just kind of giving notes on each slate. And then also you're going to obviously get our cheat sheets for every sport that we cover. And I don't know if there is a sport we don't cover at this point. Just to kind of let everybody know. I mean, we got this weekend is a massive weekend. It's the first day of college football tomorrow. So we'll obviously have sheets up for that. They're already been sent to our subscribers there. And then we have EPL. We're covering all those slates tomorrow, the 2 showdowns and the 5-game main slate. I'm pretty sure there is MMA tomorrow. I think I saw a sheet for that. Kenny will be covering it. He's done a great job with that. Really taking off as far as hitting a big percentage of his plays over there in MMA. He's a great GPP player and a multi-entry guy that really will give you some strategies there. And then we have NASCAR, obviously, the Xfinity race. Chris done a show for that today. It is in a rain delay. And then we have tomorrow night is the Daytona Cup race, and we'll be covering that as well. I know Chris is planning on doing a show here on our YouTube channel for that as well. And hopefully I'll be able to join him. But that's always a fun race. So those are the main things that we have going on tomorrow. Going to be a fun weekend. We obviously have football full swing coming up next week. College football starts, and then I think it's the next that we have NASCAR or have NFL. Sorry. So without further ado, I'm going to hop in and share my screen here. Take a look at the slate for tomorrow. I know. Sorry, I got this out one night late. Last night was just not a good one for me to get a video out, but we have until lock tomorrow, another 12 hours until lineups come out. So we got time to still check it out. And I'm going to touch on my favorite plays and kind of the route that I'm taking. So how I'm looking at this one is last week we had the big Manchester City favorite slate that you either kind of went all in on them or you went easy on them and heavy on another spot for GPPs, was really the kind of two different directions. This week, all the spreads are very close, or all the odds are very close for the most part, and there's no massive totals. So really, it's kind of a wide open deal that I think we're going to see ownership a little bit more spread out. And in the first game, we got Brentford and Aston Villa. Aston Villa is a plus 100 favorite, even money there. Brentford plus 280 dog in a 2.25 total. Not a ton that I love here. I've really been trying to get on Aston Villa early in the year because I think they do have some players that are going to play off as the season goes along in DFS. I think you can definitely go back to those here. Emiliano Buendia is taking a majority of sets for them. He's 7,700. I believe he would be my favorite play from Aston Villa. And then John McGinn is also getting a share of sets in the midfield there at 5,900. So you can definitely go to those two, especially in cash gains there. I think Buendia would be my favorite of the two. And then Danny Ings, we saw him score last week, the bicycle kick. That was insane. And then El Ghazi should be starting. I believe I saw Leon Bailey is out again tomorrow. Really excited to get him back in there for what it's worth. But El Ghazi has been good. Doesn't have sets like we saw some last year, but is very good in open play and can definitely finish. So 7,600 and 7,700 there for GPPs. You could pair them up with one of the set takers. You could go just by themselves in GPP. And then lastly, for Aston Villa, Ashley Young came over this year, 4,100. Its value is tough on the slate. I started playing around with builds a little bit, and value is definitely tough. So if you need the value at defender, I think you can definitely do worse than Ashley Young at 4,100. So he's the best option, I think, as far as the wing backs for Aston Villa. On the other side, the set takers are in Brian Mbeumo and Sergi Canos. It's tough because I don't see them having a majority of possession, but I think they could both still be fine. Their prices are kind of in that mid-range, and you can definitely go there. And Mbeumo you could play at forward, which is nice because midfield has a lot more plays that we want to play than forward does. And then Ivan Toney for GPP, like I've said before, he was their leading scorer in the championship last year. Not scoring the first two games. I'm pretty sure last week's game for them was 0-0. But you got to expect that he gets going at some point. This is a tough matchup on the road against Aston Villa and Emiliano Martinez. So I just think he's going to be a low-owned option that you could go to if you really want to. If you guys have any questions and you're watching live, be sure to drop those in chat. If you're rewatching, you can list them as in the comments, or you can reach out in the Discord, and I'd be happy to help there as well. So moving on to the second game, we got Everton and Brighton. Brighton is the plus 130 favorite at home here. And really, the Brighton kind of starts and ends for me as far as floor-wise with Pascal Gross. We saw him very low price to start the year, and I think a lot of that was because Solly March coming back and the possibility that he would lose some sets. Well, he did in the first game, but the second game, he took the monopoly of set pieces for them. He's now up to 10,000. I think he's my favorite pay-up option. He's forward eligible here. I think I would favor, obviously the odds do too, Brighton to win here at home. So he would definitely be my favorite option for Brighton. Otherwise, I think if you need the value, you could go McAllister, 4,400. Not my favorite play by any means. And then Solly March and Leandro Trossard. I keep seeing Neil Maupay being out in the couple of projected lineups that I've looked at. If he was in, and I've not seen any news as to why, you could go there in GPs. Aaron Connolly is not Neil Maupay in my eyes, and I don't think I'll be going there, but you could if you're stacking Brighton. So Leandro Trossard and Solly March would be the fringe GPP options for me. On the other end, Everton on the road, kind of a tough matchup here. Lucas Dean is still going to be a core defender play for me. He has been, I think, the first 2 weeks. He's 6,000. Should have all the set pieces in this projected lineup. And then GPP options would be Richarlison coming in form from the national team with Brazil. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 7,600 is already netted too in these first couple games. Damari Gray would be the fringe GPP option there. He can create for himself. We know that. We've seen him do it. He's 6,600. I think he's fine, but definitely a GPP only option there for me. Moving on, third game, we got Southampton and Newcastle. This is an interesting one. 2.5 total, pretty close. Newcastle at home is the slight favorite. But I think both sides have some goodness here, and it starts with the set takers. Matt Ritchie, defender eligible, 6,700 for Newcastle. And then on the other side, James Ward-Prowse at 8,300 should have all the set pieces for Southampton as well. We've seen him really blow up with crosses before. I think he can do that tomorrow in this matchup. I'm not overly scared that Newcastle is just going to come out and take 65% of possession or something. So James Ward-Prowse is one of my favorite midfield options. Matt Ritchie, one of my favorite defender options. And then otherwise, I think the rest of Newcastle has got to be reserved for GPP. Alan St. Maximum is 7,400. Callum Wilson is 7,200. I think both of those would be my first two in. Right now, I lean St. Maximum, but Callum Wilson, they're very close. It's really just a toss-up. If you look at their stats so far this year, I guess you would say that Callum Wilson is a little more goal-dependent than Alan St. Maximum. But this is a good matchup for them in my eyes, and I think either one are fine options. And then, again, for value, Miguel Almiron, 4,600. You could do worse than that as well. On the other end, if you're stacking the game or if you're just stacking Southampton, you can go to the defender value route. And I'm going to butcher this name, but Valentino Livramento, 3,600. He's fine. Listen, 3,600, that's, like I said, you kind of need value on the slate. And if you fall there in your utility spot, if you fall there in your second defender spot, I don't hate it. So you can definitely take the value there with Southampton. It's not like taking one of these big dog fullbacks that's probably not going to bomb forward. He should get forward for Southampton tomorrow against Newcastle. Adam Armstrong and Che Adams are good GPP options. Che Adams has not scored yet this year, but we know that he has upside from the past. And Adam Armstrong, coming up from the championship, has really, in my eyes, played pretty well in these first couple games. 7,000 is a fine option for GPPs. They're kind of, everybody in this game is kind of in that range in the mid tier. So I think it makes for an interesting stack. Or if you just want to target one side or the other, I think that's fine too. Next, we have one of the bigger favorites on the slate. It's the second biggest favorite, Leicester against Norwich. Norwich has looked horrid, but they've got some very tough matchups to start, and it doesn't end here. Leicester obviously got the red card on Monday in that game, and they were kind of just on the wrong foot from the beginning. And now we have a very good matchup. It is on the road, but you got to expect them to get on track here. Yuri Tielemans has again been on set pieces for them over James Maddison. But James Maddison now 6,400. I think you can definitely go there. I watched the game Monday. It did look early on before they got the red card that he was definitely pushing forward a little more than he was in their first game. And getting out and getting involved a little more. So I think you can go there just for his open play value at 6,400. Jamie Vardy is 9,500. That's a tough price, but for GPPs, if you stack Leicester, which I think is definitely viable with the matchup that they have tomorrow, you can definitely do worse than Jamie Vardy for 9,500. He could brace tomorrow, score a couple for you. Ricardo Pereira and Luke Thomas. Thomas did have a share of set pieces. I think he had some in that first game. Probably nobody really had any stats in this last one. Once they had to kind of bunker on Monday down a man. So Luke Thomas is fine, but at 5,000, I would much rather take one of the value guys that I've mentioned above. So Yori Tielemans would be my favorite, followed by James Maddison very closely. For them, that's kind of the main spots that I'm looking for Leicester. On the other side, Rashika coming over from the Bundesliga. We saw in their first game that in a very tough matchup against Liverpool that he really did have a nice floor. The projections kind of go off of his rates so far this year. I know it's a very small sample size, but 6 crosses, takes a share of set pieces for them. And he's forward eligible is a very big thing here too. So even in a tough matchup, I think he is definitely in consideration for cash games at $5,000. He's really the only option that I see that I'm excited to go with for Norwich. Billy Gilmore, as you can see, had some set pieces, but according to Football Reference, did not have any crosses with that. So he's very set dependent and hoping that a goal comes off of one of those set pieces. Brandon Williams and Max Aarons are the fullbacks, but definitely not interested in them. So I'm kind of going to pass on Norwich other than Rashika. So this game, I do expect Leicester to get back on track and probably put up at least 2 goals, I would think. But wouldn't be surprised if Norwich finally got on the board. But Tim Krul, 4,100. I tried that last week, and that was just very rough. They gave up 8 goals through 2 games. It kind of makes sense, again, if you wanted to go light on Leicester. I don't think I'm going to go there. There's a goalie that is even cheaper that I think I would go to if we're paying down tomorrow. And we'll get to him right here. So Crystal Palace plus 500 dog against West Ham, who has looked pretty much unbeatable so far, but I don't expect that to fully continue. Minus 185 favorite here at home, though, so they're in another very good spot. Michael Antonio has looked like a beast out there, 3 goals, 2 assists in the first 2 games. Now he's 11-7. That's a tough price. And I kind of think I'm going to shy away. You can go there in GPPs, but I don't think he's going to be in my core build consideration just because I don't put him on the level of some of these big names as far as that have a monopoly of sets or are going to do this week in and week out. But he's in great form, and you could go there. Jared Bowen, 9,200, has most of the set pieces for West Ham. I think he's a very good option. Benrahma is 10-3. That's a tough price, but he, kind of like Antonio, 2 goals, 2 assists, does cross a little more out wide. I think he's GPP only if you're going there. Same with Fornals and Souček. I don't want to say goal dependent because they do have somewhat of a floor just kind of in other peripheral stats. But I think it's a tough price to get to. 73. Souček is fine, 56. But definitely not guys that I am jamming into my lineup. The other share of set pieces is one of the fullbacks. We saw in game 1 it was Aaron Cresswell. Kufal got some in their last game, 5,700 and 7,000. I think I actually prefer Kufal there at some discount. They both have decent open play value, so you can play either one, but I do lean toward Kufal there. On the other side, Conor Gallagher, we played him last week for value. You can go there again, but don't expect a ton. They're not in as good a spot as they even were last week. But he took, as you can see, their corners last week. So you could go there 4,500 if you need it in the midfield or utility. Zaha, Benteke, Jordan Ayew are all GPP only, and I don't think I'm going to go there in a tough road matchup with West Ham. But Giata at 3,900 would be my favorite paydown option for sure. If you think West Ham's in for a letdown, but he could see a bunch of shots here. Hopefully he gets some saves, unlike Tim Krul last week. So that's kind of where I'm at. If you've stuck around this long on the video, I'm going to give a look here at the top targets tab. So what that is, I did this last week, showing this on the video. And I've ranked my top forwards, my top midfielders, my top defenders preliminarily before lineups come out. And then I'll do it again after lineups come out tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock Eastern. So be sure to check this tab out. This is one that you might get the answer to a 1v1 or a 2v2 that you're looking at. So definitely check that one out. So let's play around with a couple builds. Let me get us over to that screen here. Okay. It's a tough build, that's for sure. So if we take a look here where we're going to start out, I want to try to pay up for both defenders. Is that going to happen? I don't know. With kind of how tough the pricing is after I got playing around with it a little bit. But Lucas Dean, with that projected lineup, like I said, should have a monopoly of set pieces. And Matt Ritchie at home should have a nice share of sets. At forward, I really like the paydown option for one of your spots with Rashika. And then let's I'm checking back on the sheet here. But Buendia is in consideration. McGann, if you need another value there at midfield, is in consideration. Pascal Gross would be one of the next decisions to make. James Ward-Prowse is one of the top next options too. So that's kind of where I'm looking for the next one. If you go James Ward-Prowse here in the midfield, you're left with 6,000. So let's plug in Giata. And I'm apparently butchering the name, but okay, 6,700 is what you're left with there if you're paying up above 6,000 at both defenders. So if you try to go plug in a guy like Pascal Gross, it gets a little tough, 5,000. But you can make it happen. If you go Livramento, like I said, for Southampton, you got 6,500 left in the midfield that you can play. James Maddison fits, would kind of be a nice option in Wemu. John McGinn would be a great option there if you want to go. So there's definitely ways to get Pascal Gross in. If you don't go Pascal Gross, and you pay down a little more to say a Jared Bowen, that gives you 800 more. Let's say we leave Livramento, and then in the midfield we've got 7,300, and you've got Fornals if you're in GPPs, Damari Gray GPP. So that's kind of the range that you fall in, and then back down to James Maddison. Let's see. So if we pay down even more at the second forward spot with Rashika, don't pay up really at all. I think you can get down into those 7,000s, which is kind of tough for cash because you're going to want one of those set takers. Bowen, Gross is kind of where I would look for cash. But GPP, you could pay down again. You could go to a guy like Danny Ings, kind of in the mid-range. You could go El Ghazi if you want to stack Aston Villa. Go El Ghazi and then go to the midfield and go, I want Emiliano Buendia. Then you got 4,800 left and some fine options that you can go to there with, let's see, Declan Rice is fine, not spectacular. This is kind of, when I get to a point like this is where I may pay up at goalie because I know there's a value play that I could go, whether it's Ashley Young, Livramento, somebody else. this is where you could potentially pay up at goalie. Who would be my favorite pay up at goalie? It's Emiliano Martinez against Brentford, 5,300. So you go there, and then you got 3,400 left for that last spot. And we know we could find somebody if we got to down here to fit. Let's see. Or even if you don't go all the way up to 5,300, you could go Sanchez. You could go. I really don't want to take a goalie in that Southampton-Newcastle game. I think both teams are going to score there. But you could go Pickford, 4,500. That'd be up a little bit more. If you think Aston Villa struggles, obviously not in this lineup, but if you were not playing Buendia and El Ghazi, you could play Raya for Brentford. A lot of options you can go. I do want to play around with paying down at one of the defender spots. So if you look at Matt Ritchie, he has had a lot of crosses in these first two games. 21 according to there. And I'm going to have to check the sheet because I think there's been some inconsistencies with the stat provider that we pull for and the one that is going to DK. But let's just say Lucas Dean, we know he's got that monopoly of set pieces against Brighton. So let's just say we pay off down from Lucas Dean. Well, sorry. Let's say we pay down from Richie and we go to an Ashley Young. But again, that could be Livramento. And then we still pay down at goalie. Then you got a lot of flexibility. You can definitely go Pascal Gross. You can probably jam in Emiliano Buendia if you wanted to. Yeah, you got 5,000 left. And you can go kind of any option that you want there. Let's see. I know we had an option that I was looking at. Conor Gallagher would be a fine option there. So there's a lot of ways you can go, and I think a lot of the early decision, this would kind of be my core, is what I'm looking at here to start off. And yes, start paying down at defender. If you can go up, go. But that's where I'm starting. The next decision, I think, for me is if I want to pay up for the second defender or pay down for value. But that's where I'm at. Good luck to everybody tomorrow. If you have any questions, be sure to hit me up in the chat. Be happy to answer those for you. And again, check out all the other sports that we're covering this weekend. Good luck tomorrow morning. Be sure to check out college football in the coming weeks. I'll be having a video for that. Next week, I will get back to Thursday for the EPL video. And then Friday night or early Saturday morning after just before lock is going to be the college football show, probably Friday night. But be on the lookout for both of those. Obviously, the NASCAR ones and Chris's baseball videos as well. I think he is planning on some more NFL and fan share breakdown videos. Be sure to check all those out. All your support's greatly appreciated. And we'll talk in the chat. Good luck to everybody tomorrow.